clutch win streak is unfortunately over for the Knicks. 114-102 loss to the Golden State Warriors. They were really missing Karl Anthony Towns, who sat out this one. Couldn't get the offense going, but OG Anunoby had himself a good game at least. We're getting into it right now on Locked On Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, welcome in to Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast. I'm Alex Wolf. I'm editor-in-chief at Knicks site The Strickland, which you can find at thestrick.land. And he is Gavin Schall, your favorite play-by-play broadcaster's favorite play-by-play broadcaster and the Saturday co-host of the Locked On NBA podcast. And today we have a show about a loss for the Knicks, unfortunately. 114-102. They lose to the Golden State Warriors. Started off strong, did not finish so strong. OG Anunoby had himself a really good game, but the Knicks really missed Cat. So we're going to talk about why that made a huge difference in this one and why the offense faltered down the stretch. Some of the looks that the Golden State Warriors were throwing at the Knicks to throw them off their game late and get Jalen Brunson out of his captain clutch groove, and talk a little bit about where the Knicks can go from here, and maybe if it's time to take the training wheels off Mitchell Robinson, so to speak. But also, I want to thank you all for making Locked On Knicks your first listen today and every day. Whether you're checking us out on your favorite podcast platform or taking in the sights and sounds on YouTube, we appreciate you making us a part of your daily routine. Make sure you hit that auto download function on your favorite podcast app or the notification bell on YouTube so you never miss an episode. And if the pod isn't enough for you today, your favorite podcast also now has a newsletter introducing the Locked On Knicks Daily newsletter. One stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com, and start your day with the all-new free Locked On Knicks newsletter. All right, Gavin, let's get into this game. So 114-102, the Knicks lose. A lot of times when there's like a blowout and the score ends up being like a 12-point spread, we get on here and we say, the score wasn't really indicative. The Knicks blew them out, or the Knicks got blown out even worse. In this one, I think the score makes it look worse than it was. I mean, the Knicks were pretty well in this game for like 3.5 quarters. I mean, they were up by 10 at one point over Golden State. Then, Golden State makes a run in the third quarter. They even things up. Things are neck and neck. And then down the stretch, it was kind of just like, they couldn't miss. Steph Curry turned into Steph Curry at MSG. The amazing stat that he's only ever lost in his life one game at MSG, including college and everything else. Only one game he's ever lost there. And
ironically, it was
the one where he scored 54.
Yeah,
exactly. Ironically, the one where he scored 54 against the Knicks and still lost in 12-13. But yeah, the Steph Curry was being Steph Curry. Jimmy Butler got to the free throw line relentlessly down the stretch of this game. And they threw some interesting stuff at the Knicks that just kind of made it so they couldn't get any offense going. But even when the Knicks did manage to swing the ball well and find shooters and everything, guys just could not hit. I mean, another pretty rough shooting night for Mikal Bridges. Jalen Brunson couldn't hit from three. Josh Hart really had a rough night overall, only 1 of 8 shooting. Really, it was kind of just OG Anunoby that was able to really put it together at a high level in this game, and Brunson for stretches, but pretty tough game overall for the Knicks in this one.
Yeah, it's one of those you come out of and you question how much to be upset about it. And we've certainly, me more than you, have like I see people throwing out the accusation of like every time the Knicks lose, it's a disaster. And I've found myself thinking that way at times this year, and I'm trying to go away from it. And I think tonight, like if you want to talk yourself out of that mindset, like it's pretty easy to. No, Karl Anthony Towns missed this game for personal issues and might be out for some of the West Coast trip, according to Tom Thibodeau. So hope everything's all right with him. Thankfully, it doesn't seem to be like an issue with his dad or anything, as he was at the game. But again, just best wishes to Karl, best wishes to his family. Hope everything is good there. But this is obviously a team you really miss him against, because you have an opportunity against a group that plays small and does not really have a quality center right now on the roster. I guess Kevon Looney is someone who could theoretically battle Cat a little bit, but like could have been a really big offensive night for him. Obviously, Draymond is an extraordinarily good post defender, even at 35, but that would have been an area I think the Knicks could have hurt Golden State. And then to your point, outside of Jalen and OG and to some extent Mikal, nobody plays particularly well offensively. I think there are some real rotation questions to be asked on a night where Josh Hart probably has his worst game of the season. 1 for 8 from the field, 0 for 4 from 3. But I think Alex, even more crucially, just none of the energy plays you see him typically making. And ironically enough, Deuce McBride, who also did not shoot particularly well, was just 2 for 7. Like he kind of was making all those energy plays. Like in the fourth quarter, he got that steal, coast to coast push, lob ahead to Brunson. Brunson one times it to Mikal for a layup, had another play where there was a loose ball, tips it to Precious Achiuwa for a dunk. Like while he was not shooting well, he was making those energy plays. And this was a perfect night to play him a lot more. This was an ideal night to try OG Anunoby at the 5 and have both of them out there on the court, which Tom Thibodeau went to with exactly 2.5 minutes left in the game after the Knicks had missed something like 7 of their last 9 shots and the game was functionally out of reach. I would not have minded him trying that earlier. Or to your point, and we can talk about it a little bit more now if you want, lean a little bit more into Mitchell Robinson, who did have some issues in coverage and at times I think got exposed in drop, like so many bigs get exposed against Steph Curry, but probably was a better option than Precious Achiuwa, who did not do anything particularly extraordinary on the night other than rebound well 15 in 30 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, in lieu of having Cat, he did start Mitch, which is great. And I mean,
Yeah.
I think the main thing is like 15 minutes of playtime, he gets 4 offensive rebounds in that amount of time, which I mean, Precious Achiuwa also had 4 offensive rebounds, but played 30 minutes. Like that was a big thing. Honestly, with the way that the Knicks were playing down the stretch where they just couldn't make a shot, little reminiscent of a couple of years ago when they relied so heavily on offensive rebounds and were not shooting great. They were one of like the bottom 5 3-point shooting teams in the league that year, and yet still had a top 5 offense or top 10 or whatever they ended up at 2 years ago. But still had a high ranking offense because
they were third.
Third. There we go. Yeah, because Mitchell Robinson was cleaning up the messes all the time and getting just an obscene amount of offensive rebounds. Like it's kind of well documented right now that the Warriors don't have anyone large on their roster anymore. Like the biggest guys are like Draymond Green and like Kevon Looney, who kind of just plays bigger than he is. I think that it would have made a lot of sense to have Mitch out there because they weren't playing a lot of size and you could have sort of influenced the game that way. Now I understand, maybe there's still minute restrictions or whatever,
well, Tom Thibodeau apparently told Jared Greenberg there was no minute, or sorry, he told the announcers, Ian Eagle and Greg Anthony, no minutes restriction, which who knows if that's true or not, but it's something I was thinking about all game and I noted because they've said it right at the beginning and feels weird when he only plays 15 minutes.
Yeah, it felt like there was still one.
Yeah.
So maybe he's just joshing, I don't know, but I mean, this is the same guy that like when Mitch came back, like is going way back, but like the 21 to 22 season, he comes back overly yoked, clearly out of shape, whatever. He threw Mitch out there for like 35 minutes against Boston in that first game because there was a need for it. It's like, I don't know what happened to the old Tibbs, man. Like, where's the guy? Where's the guy that would run someone into the ground?
Tom Thibodeau tomorrow, listen to Locked On Knicks. Like, I can't win with these guys. Jesus.
A couple years ago, they're saying I should get fired for this, and now they're saying that they
now
want me
I
to play
him, and I'm still ice.
You can't figure it out. But yeah, we are a tough nut to crack, aren't we? But yeah, I mean, I think that's my main takeaway. And I mean, maybe it wouldn't have solved all the ails, but that's kind of the thing that I thought would have been the better way to go down the stretch because, trying to put more shooting out there or more defense or whatever, sure, like it's a noble pursuit, but nobody really had it going from 3. Like they shot 24% as a team from 3 in this game. My thought would have just been like, let's start cleaning up misses. Like, let's start cleaning up the mess, getting these offensive rebounds, like do your best to outsize them and outmuscle them. And I felt like the Knicks just never went to that. And to Golden State's credit, like they were rotating great around the perimeter. Like there was one possession late in the game where, I mean, I thought the Knicks did everything right with how they approached it. Like they got dribble penetration, they kicked it out to the perimeter, they started a swing sequence, and Golden State was just like picture perfect on every rotation, like just nailed it. And if it didn't end up in a shot clock violation, it was like so close that it forced just like a horrendous shot. And it was, I mean, they played really, really good defense. Like credit to them. They're playing really good in the Butler era right now. Like clearly, like Butler's made a difference. Moses Moody being in the starting lineup has made a difference. Like they're making it work with what they got. But I think the Knicks just could have adjusted better, and they just didn't really. They never seemed to have, like, once things started going by the wayside in the second half, they didn't have any sort of counter maneuver, and that's kind of on Tibbs. Like he didn't have a full deck tonight. Didn't have Cat, who obviously is a huge piece to the team, but had mostly, had everyone but Cat available, and we've seen him deal with that at different points in the season, and he just kind of didn't do anything about it.
Yeah, I mean, to me, a big part of it, and look, to your point, Golden State is seemingly a great team post Jimmy Butler, 8-0, fourth best defense in basketball coming into tonight since that trade. So they're good, and that's like where again, like I want to drive home, like it's okay to lose these games every once in a while. Like, and I know the issue Knicks fans listening to this have is it seems like the Knicks have consistently lost these types of games this year, while Golden State isn't one of those fabled top three teams. The Knicks did just beat the Grizzlies, a team that is nominally closer to that than the Warriors. The Warriors with Butler, with Curry, it would have felt like a bigger win, I think, than Memphis felt like, who'd been struggling a little bit of late. But to me, like the way Golden State guarded the Knicks down the stretch, where they just like Jalen Brunson did. I don't, Alex, I'll count on you for this, but I know you always have it up. If you want to look up how many points he got in the fourth, because it felt like he got those 2 free throws, maybe had one other layup in garbage time, but basically was shut out after coming in. With 6 minutes left in the game, we should note at that point it was 94-93, and the Warriors just dominated from that point forward. And I think it was a combination of stuff. It was that OG who was just scalding throughout this game. He only scored one more point. Actually, he didn't score after Brunson checked back into the game. So that was pretty much it for him. He missed a few shots, and he was so red hot, like he was maybe bound to fall off just a little bit. Mikal, like at one point, tried to attack Steph Curry, tried to get to the rim. Precious Achiuwa was like right on that right block, and there was just no space, and he settled for a tough fadeaway jumper, which should never be the case when he has 4 inches on Steph and should be able to take him inside, especially when Steph's in his mid-30s. And we said it already, Josh Hart could not make a shot, and at times was unwilling to take a shot, where he had this sequence where he refused to take a long two, and then proceeded to collide into OG Anunoby after OG Anunoby missed like a tough pull-up shot, taking him out of the play. Warriors push, get a layup on the other end, misses a wide open corner three, misses a runner in like a 3-play sequence, and that was Golden State separating. That was Josh, again, just not really having it tonight, and I would argue probably should not be in the game. And to that point, like the Knicks without Cat, it's just not enough shooting for modern NBA basketball, right? Last 15 games, which is a pretty decent sample size, they are 17th in the NBA in three-point percentage. They're 4th overall in the season. So they were so good to start the year, and we now have like a pretty decent sample size of them not being a great shooting team. And I ask again, well, and that's just in terms of accuracy, in terms of volume, like they're bottom 5 or 6 in the league over that stretch. So like I posit, like where the hell is Deuce McBride? Even on a night where he doesn't shoot well, he's making energy plays. He gets your 3-point rate up. There's a reason he's in your top 5 lineups. It's because this team desperately needs shooting, and he at least provides the threat of shooting, someone you have to guard defensively and can give room for Jalen Brunson to go cook in space, which you need him to do, and he was doing throughout the first half on a night where you don't have Karl-Anthony Towns. So I apologize for the extended rant there, but and like I know it's repetitive because I know it's something we've talked about a lot, but this is another night where I think that might have given you a chance, and maybe you don't win the game. But like I think Tibbs like takes this team out of games unnecessarily with his lineup decisions.
Yeah, I'm with you there, and we can talk more about that. Talk more about what difference Cat maybe could have made had he been available for this game in the next segment, as well as talk about OG Anunoby's fantastic game and what he's been showing, which has been I think just a phenomenal run so far in these last few games. So we'll talk about that in just a moment when we get back in. But first, I wanted to let you all know about our friends over at Open Phone. And running a small business means you're wearing a lot of hats. Your personal phone becomes your business phone, and before you know it, you're juggling customer calls day and night. And as your team grows, it becomes impossible to manage everything with just your personal number. That's where Open Phone comes in. It's the #1 business phone system designed to help you keep your work and personal life separate. So for just $15 a month, the cost of a few coffees, you get complete transparency and visibility into everything happening with your business phone number. Open Phone works through an app on your phone or computer and integrates with tools like HubSpot and hundreds of others. It also uses AI-powered call transcripts and summaries, so you'll have a rundown of your calls and action items the second you hang up. And if you miss a call, no problem. Automated messages are sent directly to your customer, ensuring you never miss an opportunity to engage. Right now, OpenPhone is offering 20% off your first 6 months when you go to openphone.com/lockedonnba. That's openphone.com/lockedonnba for 20% off 6 months. Openphone.com/lockedonnba. And if you have existing numbers with another service, OpenPhone will port them over at no extra charge. All right, Gavin, we're back in to keep talking through this loss, 114 to 102. Couple quick ramble notes. First off, I want to echo your sentiment. I'm kind of with you. I think this is not a loss that I'm looking too much into. This is kind of the team was riding a hot streak and they finally went cold down the stretch of a game.
Mhm.
It's going to happen. They're not going to win every game the rest of the way out. That's unrealistic. If you think that way and you think the sky is falling over this game, you should probably get a grip because it's a good team. It's a team that's been playing their best basketball this season too. They kind of just ran into a buzzsaw. Steph Curry's playing amazing lately. I mean, he was bound to do it on the garden floor. You know, it's just what he always does. The cat thing, I actually I actually missed the very beginning of the game, so I missed why he was out. And so hearing that's personal reasons makes a lot of sense to me because it seemed like he seemed preoccupied the other day. Like it was very weird. Like it was very noticeable to me that like his style of play was just off.
Mhm.
Everything seemed off. He seemed, whatever. So hopefully everything's good with him. I echo that sentiment as well. Hope everything's good with his family and whatever, and that he's able to figure it all out and come back with a more clear head because he didn't seem like he had it against the Heat the other day. But on greener pastures, OG Anunoby just had another phenomenal game in this one. 29 points, 11 to 19 field goals, 4 or 9 from 3. Also gets 3 boards, 3 assists. Just a really complete effort scoring the basketball from him again. We're starting to see, I feel like, a more saucy OG here. Like I feel like there's just I don't know necessarily that anything has gotten demonstrably better, like in terms of like his handle or anything like that, but I feel like he's finally settling into his lane, I guess. And it's reminding me more of like early season OG, where he was, at his worst, I think OG looks to do too much and overestimates himself, where he's like trying to dribble the air out of the ball or trying to, he should limit himself to like 3-4 dribbles tops. Like that should be like the ideal OG Anunoby experience is like 3-4 dribbles, straight line drives for the most part. But he's working in this sidestep 3 now, which is really starting to fall a lot, which is great. I think that that's like a key shot for him because otherwise, I think that he had a tendency before, like when he wasn't quite as confident in that sidestep dribble into that 3, or just in shooting off emotion in general, like versus just shooting stationary. He would kind of like no matter what the pressure was, he would just try to adjust his shooting form for it.
Mhm.
And I feel like that led to him rushing a lot of shots and stuff, which is not great. It's not ideal for making them because as we know, making lots of shots is about repeating it. But I feel like he's been getting a lot better with that. He's been much better about like attacking the rim again and like going up super strong. So I guess that foot is feeling like perfect because the amount that he's been driving in and going up for those like big two-handed dunks again and stuff has been a revelation. And I think is a really important, impactful thing that he does for this team. Like dunks are backbreakers. Like, and he's bringing out more of those again, which I think he's one of the few guys on the team that can really do that. But yeah, I thought this was just another phenomenal offensive game for OG in this one.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. He has a swagger back, and it could have been Jennifer Hudson, Alexandra Daddario, Edie Falco, all in the crowd. That simple? I don't know. Only OG could tell us that. Next time he steals the mic from Alan Hahn, I hope he addresses it. But he was amazing in this game. The engine he showed defensively against Miami, like totally translated over to the other end of the floor where he was like, it looked like the first 18 games of the season. Like, isn't that the simplest way we can say it? Like, so good off the ball. Like, first basket of the game was him like cutting after like Mikal went at Steph, Draymond rotated over to double. Everyone kind of helped like way off of Josh Hart, and OG still found a pocket of room to cut in, hit a mid-range jumper. One of my favorite sequences of the game was when like Brunson swung it to Hart, set a screen for him, Hart attack. OG cut off of it again. Hart hit him. And then like he had pods on him, and Draymond again is like like kind of hit the panic button, said, I better help on that. And he just does sort of a half pivot pocket pass over to Mitchell Robinson for a dunk. That got me fired up. I was so excited to see OG and Mitch on the floor together last year. We got like 2.5 games of it. Like it was just cool to see that connection. Fun to see them defend on the floor at the same time. Like there's some good stuff from Mitch in drop coverage early in this game. But then OG just started kind of cooking from there, like tough, like Kobe or Kawhi style mid-range jumper over Moses Moody, where it just rose up over him, was hitting like pump, flyby, foul line jumpers. Totally took Jimmy Butler out of the game for the bulk of the first half. And even in the second half, like when Jimmy found success, he was able to back cut OG a couple of times, but it was basically never Jimmy just going one-on-one and beating OG, except for one time where he elbowed him in the face and OG got called for a foul. And then in the second half, the threes were just nasty, like just quick release on a straight line. Like so many times you'll see him like shoot it short. And these were like no doubters, like going in from the second he released them. Final highlight I'll mention was when he absolutely just like fake Kevin Knox out of his shoes and then hit a baseline jumper to beat the buzzer. And then one more where he had a pick and pop with Deuce McBride, I think it was, and just like an instantaneous attack the rim, up and under finish, like level of confidence, decisiveness, touch. We haven't seen from him in a long time. And it's so weird to think this is the same guy we saw just clanking shots at the rim less than a week ago against the Sixers. I don't totally know what to make of it. I don't know if this is reasonable to expect this continues, but if the Knicks get this kind of OG Anunoby, like I just think it completely changes their ceiling as a team.
Yeah, I think so too. And, we didn't even really bring up his defense a ton. You mentioned the Mitch stuff, but like one thing that I noticed in this one, I feel like with Mitch on the floor, it was, they were more willing to have OG kind of float around as like the free safety almost in this one. I mean, he was just like, he was the guy to kind of like when they felt like they were comfortable enough to, and this was the team to double against, right? Like, I mean, outside of, Moody was doing his thing to a degree, but like for the most part, you're trying to stop Steph and you're trying to stop Butler in, when you're facing this team. So like, I thought they were really smart about like throwing those doubles when they could to try to stop those guys. And it did work for like a large swath of this game. And OG was kind of that like free safety type that was just like flying around, like, especially when Butler wasn't out there, like they subbed him out like kind of weirdly early. Butler, that is. And that allowed the Knicks kind of like focus in more on Steph a little bit early, and they were really bothering him. And like OG was one of the first guys that would like kind of cheat away from his man a little bit, get over there, get a hand out, and near Steph and whatever. And I just thought that was really good. It was a nice little wrinkle, and like hopefully we, like you said, I like having Mitch and OG out there together defensively. Like Mitch is still getting his timing back and everything, obviously, but once those guys get firing on all cylinders, like they're going to be a pretty nasty combo, I think, together. And because of having Mitch back there that can finally be the safety blanket that this team needs, like on the inside, it allows you to get a little more creative with how you deploy OG and then possibly even Mikhail going forward with, and Josh to that degree too, of letting them freelance a little more and, come in for a double or whatever, and not have to fear for the fact of like, oh, but like if someone gets by them, you're basically guaranteeing it's going to be a foul by Cat or whatever. And then, that's one step closer to him potentially having to be off the floor. Now you have Mitch there who even at his like rustiest is still a better defender than Cat and a much better, interior guy to have in there as the last line of defense there. So we'll see how that relationship continues to grow. But coming up, we'll talk more through some of the rotation decisions in this game. Talk about some of the other things maybe that we were a little less than pleased with, but yeah, some final housekeeping notes to finish this episode off when we get back in.
But first, we want to tell you about our friends over at BetterHelp. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Who's in your support system? We all need people to lean on, whether it's friends, family, mentors, or professionals. Even the strongest leaders and athletes know that asking for help makes them better. Therapy is one of the best ways to build a strong support system. It's not just for tough times. It helps with setting boundaries, developing coping skills, and becoming the best version of yourself. Learning to ask for help is really important. I've seen firsthand how valuable it is to have a support system that keeps you grounded and motivated. I am someone who, to my own detriment, will desperately try to prove I can do something by myself or not really share when I'm upset with someone because I don't want to bother them, or I just don't want the conflict. And therapy teaches you like that's okay. And it actually like really helps relieve that discomfort when you have an open discourse with someone. So build your support system with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. All right, what's up, guys? We are talking through a 114-102 defeat at the hands of the Golden State Warriors. Alex, I'm going to stick with a little more positive before we get negative, and maybe we get a little deeper into Josh Hart's performance or some of the rotation issues. I thought it was a brilliant first half of basketball. You highlighted the defensive end of the floor where OG and Mikal did a really good job on Steph, and the game plan was pretty obvious that like they were trying to just sort of run Steph off the 3-point line, which good luck. Teams have obviously been trying for a decade and mostly failing, but Mikal did a really nice job, like constantly chasing over, getting Steph to go inside. And then the Knicks, and this was a point that our friend Jeff, aka Frank Barrett, over the Hot Hand Theory podcast, I saw him making on Twitter. The Knicks, unlike in that 2023 series against the Heat, were really embracing the fact that Jimmy Butler is not a shooter, does not want to take threes, allowing OG to play free safety, to your point. So that stood out. I want to get a little bit more into Mikal's offense, but first I think we should talk Jalen Brunson, who was just brilliant offensively in the first half. Did not shoot well from 3, 1 for 7, but from 2-point range was 8 of 11, 6 of 7 on his free throws, 25 and 7, even on a night where like Tommy Tibbs, very conservative with the minutes tonight. 36 for Mikal, 37 for Jalen, 33 for Josh Hart, 24 for Deuce, as we mentioned. Basically everyone other than OG who played 42. But I thought Jalen was just brilliant early in this game. I mean, literally the first play of the game, absolutely cooking Moses Moody with like a step back to the elbow, pump fake, and then a step through for a layup. Always seems to get guys on that. It's just so tough to defend. And I don't know what it is, but there are just some nights where Jalen just seems so much faster and explosive than other nights. Maybe it's as simple that like they had the day off and on Monday and like had a chance to rest at home, got treatment. I don't know what it is, but he was just like flambeing closeouts, double clutch layups through Hield and Pajemski. He had a Dirk fade off a live dribble on Jimmy Butler, which I'm sure Jalen's done it. I'm sure Luka probably does it at times. I can't really remember seeing that. That's insane to do off a live dribble. That was tough. I mentioned that pass to Mikal he had in transition. I thought his defense was actually pretty good for the most part, except for a few off-ball things. Really, really nice Jalen Brunson game.
Yeah, the defense stood out to me early, actually. Like, he had a really good possession against Butler early on in this game where I was like, all right, that was solid. Like, I mean, he stonewalled him, like, trying to get to the hoop. Like, just goes to show, I mean, Brunson with the right matchup can, I don't want to say be like a huge positive on defense, but can give you some good possessions. Like, if he's able to utilize his strength, and particularly against a guy like Butler, who's mostly just getting by on like strength at this point anyway. But yeah, it was a good offensive half for him. I mean, obviously in the second half, they kind of bottled him up, especially down the stretch. I think they made a real concerted effort to like meet him at the point of attack, like way up. Like, you could see late in the game, he was having to kind of like direct traffic, and he got into like grumpy Jalen mode a little bit, where like, you can see sometimes he's coming down the floor and he's like agitatedly like pointing, where he needs his screens or whatever. And like, he was kind of doing that down the stretch, and it was kind of already too late, unfortunately, in this game. But like, after Mitch got back in, he's trying to tell Mitch like, all the way up here, like come like 8 feet out. Like, we're gonna need a high pick and roll in this one, like 8 feet back from the 3-point line, because they were trying to like kind of get him free that way. And that one he managed to get free and then couldn't hit the 3. It was just that was kind of the story of this game. I feel like it was just like, they were just a second too, or a few possessions too late down the stretch of this game on pretty much everything that was happening, and it just led to Golden State pumping that lead up a little bit, and then the Knicks just not being able to identify what was going on the other end until it was already like, well, they've already scored 2 more threes since the last time that we did anything. They went like almost 4 minutes without a field goal in like the final 7 or something like that. Like up until I think Brunson scored with like about 3 minutes left or something like that. And that broke that drought. And by then it was just kind of like, well, it's kind of over at this point. Like, it was pretty rough stuff. But again, it's just like, it's whatever. I mean, they were not generating decent looks down the stretch. And that's the part I think that gives me hope out of this one is like some games it's just horrible execution down the stretch. Other times it's in this game, it was like they figured things out to enough of a degree that, they were getting open looks for like McHale, for OG, for Brunson, which is all you can ask. And they just weren't going in.
Yeah.
So I think you can just kind of hang your hat on this one, just being one of those like rare, super cold nights for everybody. But there was no colder night than Josh Hart's. And I mean, I know we talked about it a little bit, but 1 of 8 shooting, uh, just really 2 points, 8 boards, 3 assists. Just I'm with you. Like it felt weirdly uninspired for him. I mean, the box score shows it. Team high -22 in 33 minutes, which is really bad for him. I mean, he's normally one of the top plus minus guys on the team because he's usually affecting winning in some way when he's out there. But it just seemed like a very lethargic game for him on both ends. Not dissimilar. I mean, granted, Cat wound up putting up the stats the other day, but not totally dissimilar to like how Cat's game was against Miami. I feel like where it's just like there's something just off about him in this one, and yet still manages to get 33 minutes out of it to Deuce's 24. This was one of those where I kind of wish like what Tibbs did to McHale the other day by sitting him down the stretch and letting Deuce cook down the stretch. Just revisiting something you already brought up in the first segment, but like this was the game I think to have Deuce out there instead of Hart and just see what happens. Like, I mean, he wasn't exactly lighting the world on fire either, like shooting the ball, but he at least had more pep in his step. I think that was maybe what you needed in this one, especially with Steph out there. Like, have just an active body on him, try to keep more of a hand in his face, whatever, or throw doubles at him with Deuce with McHale already on him. Whatever you got to do, like figure something out just to try to stall him down the stretch a little bit at least. Though, again, Jimmy was just getting to the free throw line a ton, and even when it was questionable down the stretch, like that OG call and whatever, it is what it is with that. That's just how the refs are going to call it. But yeah, I thought there was a lot to be desired with both Josh Hart's performance and then Tibbs's identification of Josh Hart's performance in this one because it was just not great across the board.
Yeah, I mean, you always hear from Tibbs, the game will tell you what to do, but it feels like he only listens if it kind of suits his preconceived notion of what he expects the game to tell him. For the most part, sometimes he makes really good adjustments. Like he closed the other day with Deuce and OT, which was awesome and encouraging. And I don't want to be all negative because I think Tibbs has been leaning a little more into some of the stuff we've been saying and other people have been saying, and it seems like it's trending the right direction. But there are just nights like this where it seems, I don't want to say abundantly obvious because like, honestly, like I don't like, again, like outside of the energy stuff, like Deuce was not necessarily having a great game and like he was missing shots he would normally make it. And defensively, there were a couple of times like he got beat backdoor and like some of them might've been fouls, but like he was still having his own issues defensively. So I don't want to frame it like it was a no brainer and Tibbs is an idiot and he doesn't know ball because again, I always say like he's forgotten more about basketball than either of us. And frankly, anyone who covers the team will ever know. But there are nights like this where it just feels obvious. And I would love him to give an honest answer on it because I just don't know what the rationale is there. And frankly, I don't think there really is rationale there. But I wanted to finish up. I'll try to stay positive here on McHale and Mitch. On McHale, I saw people on Twitter saying like, all right, he has to be better. Another bad game against a good team. And I actually disagreed with that. I thought he was pretty good. And I think, again, sorry, Tibbs, I guess I'm circling back and using him as a punching bag one more time. Like it's a little bit on Tom Thibodeau when Steph Curry's the matchup. And granted, like that is not Trae Young. Like Steph is big relatively compared to someone like Trae at 6'3". He competes. He's very smart. You have Draymond Green roaming off ball. Like it's not a situation where you're like, all right, 50 ISOs for McHale and he should cook every time like you would do against the Trae Young probably. But you do have to go at that matchup, right? He's 4 inches bigger. This is a guy who over an extended stretch averaged 25 points per game efficiently in the NBA. Like let McHale get going. And I thought early in this game, the Knicks maybe didn't have quite enough organized offense for him, but I thought McHale like just was able to make something out of nothing and like did a good job facilitating for OG a couple different times. I really loved the Knicks ran this one set where it was horns for Brunson and Bridges was the second screener and Brunson came around him and it was essentially like a pick and roll between the two and Bridges just short rolled out of it. Brunson hit him on a little pocket pass for a midi. I would love for the Knicks to run more stuff like that. I thought Bridges was more aggressive than he has been at times this season, like really confidently attacked the closeout, ended up getting swatted at the rim by Kevon Looney. But again, like good to see him going. Like went right at Steph in transition, got a righty banker, went at Steph again to tip in a Jalen Brunson miss. A tough 1-foot fadeaway over Moody in transition to open the third quarter, hit a 3-pointer over Draymond in transition off of a nice push from Josh Hart. He actually hit Mitch for a layup. Like Mikal, this is obviously the first time we're getting to see them play together. First couple of games, like he hit Mitch for a layup. It was nice to see someone look for Mitch on the inside. Had another short roll where he dodged Jimmy Butler in midair to throw a pocket pass to OG in the corner for 3. And I don't know why the Knicks went away from that down the stretch. Like they used Hart a couple of times as a short roll guy. Like in my mind, like have Mikal screen for Jalen all day, because then the Warriors either have to switch it and put Steph on Jalen, which is like barbecue chicken, or if you don't switch it, you're blitzing, and then Mikal is playing 4-on-3. And I thought like we haven't seen him get a ton of opportunities to do that. He's looked really good all year doing that. Blocked the crap out of Steph one time. Again, Steph got him like a few times in the fourth quarter, but I think a lot of that was the defense around Mikal breaking down. Then it was like Mikal failing. This is a rare night this year where the Knicks lose to a good team and Mikal does nothing in the fourth quarter, and I defend him. So let that be noted. And then just nice to have Mitchell Robinson back. Alex, you were kind enough to cover for me over the weekend when I had family in town. So this was my first opportunity to talk about him on the podcast. I mentioned some beautiful drop defense at points in this game. He had a short roll pass to the corner that got me excited just because we don't see him do that too much. A couple nice finishes. There were also some misses in there, like Brunson totally botched a lob to him at one point. Hart hit him on a really nice lob that Mitch couldn't quite catch. At times was rushing around the basket, like tried to tip in a pass, like a shot, off the rim, way over the top of the rim instead of just coming down and dunking it. I think because he's scared to get fouled. That has to change. The defense wasn't always perfect. I think the reason Tibbs went away from him is because they were able to victimize him when he came back in for a minute with Steph, and Mitch was kind of caught in between being at the level, being in drop, and they get a layup. So there's some bad stuff there. He's still rusty, but man, I love watching Mitchell Robinson play basketball. He was mic'd up. I loved how excited he was to be back on the garden floor, and I just hope we see a lot more of him.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I don't have much more to add. I think we got to start catching up on our sleep before this West Coast road trip coming up. Get the coffee brewing. Lots of 10 p.m. starts coming up in our future. So we'll, of course, have that game recap for you for Friday, but we'll have some other great episodes in between. So we'll be back in your ears the rest of the week. But till next time, thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. Peace out, everybody.